Hello. Hey, everybody. Looks like we have a guest with us today. Well, we'll meet our guest a little bit later. And so, welcome to class. Today, we're continuing on our study of Buddhism in China. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So we're looking at Buddhism, and we can recall that this is the first time we're looking at a religion that's coming to India from the outside, originally largely through migrants, through traders, but over time will become adopted and blended in alongside Confucianism, Taoism, and what we've identified as or calling folk religion. Okay, so here we are. We've been studying this part of the world, but now starting last week, we've been asking what's going to happen when a religion that arises very much in the context of South Asia is going to make a migration to East Asia, to China, a religion founded by according to the legends, a prince named Siddhartha, who renounces the throne, renounces his birthright to the throne. And you can think about with a tradition where that we see in Chinese religions, where kingship and divinity are very much linked. To give up a high seat in an imperial hierarchy, the highest seat, in many ways, that's an astonishing idea. Okay, so we're here looking at China, and what does Buddhism bring to China? Well, beliefs in reincarnation and a cycle of reincarnation called samsara. There's also going to be a belief in karma, that one's actions determine one's fate in this life and in the next. Also core, Buddhism will now present a new sense of opportunity. There is a happily ever after afterlife via becoming an enlightened Buddha, obtaining some state of nirvana, going to a pure lands. We're going to learn about the concept of pure lands today. Buddhism will bring in monks and nuns. This community is called the Sangha, and they'll take over as caretakers of the ancestors, the spirits, and the gods. Buddhism will also introduce a concept of the humane king, a king who is just, who rules according to a moral order that is called the Dharma. The Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha. We're going to see new scriptures. And there's going to be a sense of tension to some extent, especially Buddhism introducing ideas of renouncing the world, of your kinship doesn't matter. Many will view this as very kind of, whoa, this goes against everything we believe in. However, Buddhism will also find ways of syncretizing with Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and the folk religions. And Buddhism will also introduce some new holy beings. We're going to meet some of them. We're going to meet some of them today. As today's lecture, we're going to look at Buddhism in the imperial context of China. We're going to look at some Buddhist scriptures. I call them Chinese Buddhist scriptures, but these are scriptures that were translated often from Sanskrit, an ancient Indian language, into the Chinese language. And you will need your Introducing Chinese Religions textbook today. We're going to look at a few passages. We're going to see Buddhist deities and holy beings. But first, I am getting, so I'm sorry, what? Okay, so I just heard that we're getting a message from our sponsor, so we're going to pause for a short commercial break. This is a commercial break brought to you by our sponsor, and our sponsor for today is the Robot Monk. Let us meet the Robot Monk, brought to you by our sponsor.
想随时乱想就快乐。
It's the world's first robot monk. This cartoon-like creature lives in Longquan Temple in the suburbs of Beijing. It can recite mantras and answer simple questions about Buddhism. Since its debut last year, the robot has gone viral on China's social media and attracted crowds of visitors.
这边来找他的。
特别可爱，就觉得特别萌。一是觉得很可爱，第二觉得很有趣。
But it's not for fun or commerce that Xianer is created. Master Xian Fan, who designed the image for the robot, says it's a perfect vessel for spreading the wisdom of Buddhism.
Buddhism is an ancient religion, but Buddhists live in the modern world. So Buddhist followers need to serve the public with modern technologies.
The 2-foot-tall robot was jointly created by a tech company and monks in the temple, some of whom are AI experts from China's top universities. In addition to real-life conversations, the Longquan Temple has also produced animations and published articles featuring the cartoon monk.
A figure such as Xianer carries a sense of leisure and humor, which may make it easier for people to understand the mercifulness and wisdom of Buddhism, as well as the notion of kindness.
The Longquan Temple is long known for making use of technology to spread Buddhism. Master Xue Cheng, abbot of the 1,500-year-old monastery, has been sharing his teachings regularly on social media and has tens of thousands of followers on his Weibo account.
All right, well, that was our sponsor, the Robot Monk. So we're seeing this is a monk in modern day China, a robotic monk that is programmed to spread the teachings of Buddhism. So it's a very fascinating looking at how modern technology and religion are intersecting. All right, so that was our commercial break. Now let's get on back to our lecture. All right, very important is this idea of the Sangha. This is a new institution introduced into China from South Asia. And the Sangha, in short, is a community of monks or nuns. They had mixed relation with dynastic rulers. Sometimes there was close ties, sometimes the connections were strained. They were in charge of preserving and often translating Buddhist scriptures. And lay people, these are folks who are not monks and nuns, would get good karma. This is the belief, and this is still the belief, by donating food or supporting the Sangha. The Sangha, in turn, could do prayers for the well-being of the departed, for the well-being of the ancestors. The Sangha could also recite the scriptures of Buddhism so that local gods and goddesses were happy. These are the gods and goddesses of the land, the water, the mountains that we saw earlier in the semester. Buddhism and dynastic history. So one of the running themes of this class is that for much of the history of the religions of China, religion and state are very closely connected in a myriad of ways. In particular, religions of China will evolve together, and often the lines between being a Buddhist or a Confucian or a Taoist will be blurred, but these religions will evolve together throughout in the context of different dynasties. So Buddhism and states, and we're going to meet an empress. one of the famous empresses of China. So dynastic religion. As the Han Dynasty is collapsing, this is a time of chaos and uncertainty. Buddhism comes in and introduces a path that's promising to alleviate suffering, to allow those who are suffering to find some state of everlasting peace. And so during this time of chaos, when one dynasty is coming to an end and different warlords are fighting for supremacy, and there's civil war and strife all around, during this time, Buddhism's message of universal compassion, of finding a path beyond suffering, will start to have an appeal to more and more diverse groups. During the Sui dynasty, this is the dynasty that will arise after the Hans, the question that emerges amongst many of the rulers is, well, how can we unify our people? How can we restore faith in our government? And here Buddhism becomes an imperial religion. And that's not to say that other religions disappeared, but Buddhism would have a very prestigious place, and rulers of this dynasty would give money to temples, sponsor monks and nuns, sponsor the translation of Indian texts into Chinese languages. And the Tang dynasty is really a golden age of Buddhism. Buddhism is flourishing greatly in this time period. The Tang comes after the Sui. And again, Buddhism is a source of political legitimacy for the Tang rulers. Emerging in this context is this idea of the humane kings. So we saw with the mandate of heaven that a ruler has to have some kind of higher force that's legitimizing their rule. Well, with the humane kings, it's a king that acts in a benevolent way and will rule in harmony with the principles and teachings of Buddhism. Wu Zetian, this is the only female monarch in at least the recorded history of China. And she will embrace Buddhism. And this is part of how she'll get around the Confucian critics will say a woman cannot hold this place in the hierarchy. Is we'll say, well, we're going Buddhism now. And she claims to be an incarnation of a Buddha, a future Buddha named Maitreya. Yet Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism will continue to function, and at a time they'll even fuse together throughout the history of China's dynasties, really going from the fall of the Han onwards. All right, Buddhist scriptures. So you'll need this textbook right here, the Introducing Chinese Religions. We're going to go to page 125. All right, so there's some popular scriptures. One is called the Lotus Sutra, and on 125, I'm going to read you a verse, and this is in the block on 125 from the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra reads as follows: all the Buddhas honored by the world appear in this world because they wish to enable all living beings to open up to the knowledge and vision of the Buddha, to cause them to attain purity. The Buddhas preach the doctrine only by means of one Buddha vehicle. There are no other vehicles, neither two nor three. So here, the scriptures are talking about how Buddhas teach. Buddhas appear in the world to aid beings, but sometimes they'll teach different things, sometimes contradictory things to different beings, depending on what that person needs to hear to benefit them. This is called the concept of the use of skillful means. We had the Huayan scriptures, that should be H-U-A. And the scripture says, there is not a place where the wisdom of a Buddha does not reach. Why? There's not a single living being that is not in full possession of the wisdom of the Buddha. It is only due to their false thinking, fallacies, and attachments that beings fail to realize this. If they could only abandon their false thoughts, then the all-encompassing wisdom, the spontaneous wisdom, and the unobstructed wisdom of the Buddha will clearly manifest themselves. So what's being said here is that all of us within our minds have an innate potential to become a fully enlightened being. And that in the Buddhist concept, it's called the Buddha nature. There'll be the scripture of the humane kings. This will be scripture, Buddhist scriptures designed to aid and guide kings and their ministers. Pure Land scriptures, which will guide beings into kind of similar to heavenly realms, where a Buddha is presiding over that realm. This is an important concept. The Sanskrit word is the Vinaya, the Chinese word is Lu, and these are the rules for monks and nuns to follow. So these are scriptures containing, if you're a member of the Sangha, what you can do or you cannot do as a member of the Sangha. All right, and some traditions of Buddhism. So all branches of Chinese Buddhism are part of a large tradition called Mahayana Buddhism. So Buddhism has many different traditions. There's Theravada, Vajrayana, Mahayana. Mahayana is the Buddhism of China. And Mahayana Buddhism, this is about that one will cultivate one's own Buddha nature, one's potential to become a Buddha. One will cultivate the qualities of universal compassion, a sense of compassion and care for all beings, and wisdom, a wisdom understanding reality. So Chinese Buddhism is part of Mahayana, but within the Chinese Buddhist Mahayana tradition, there are these many different sub-branches. Let's see a few of these sub-branches. We have the Tiantai, and this is founded by Zhi Yi, and this is a tradition emphasizing meditation and philosophical analysis. Page 151 of our textbook, and it's talking about meditation. The perfect and sudden practice of calmness and insight from the very beginning takes the true nature of reality as its object. Being identical with the mean, within it, there is nothing that is not true reality. When one's mind connects with the realm of reality, then the realm of reality is present within a single thought, and there is no sight or smell that is not the middle way. The realm of the self, the realm of the Buddhas, the realm of living creatures are also like that. There is one unadulterated reality, and there is nothing outside that reality. So Buddhism, and we saw this also in Taoism, is a quest to find out what is the ultimate reality behind what we see. And here the scriptures are telling us through meditation, one will arrive at a reality that is all that there is, this one eternal reality. The Huayan Buddhism will emphasizes how all things are one and interconnected. Chan Buddhism is about returning and understanding the nature of one's original mind. Let's take a look at a Chan. Chan becomes Zen Buddhism when it arrives in Japan. Let's take a look at a Chan scripture. The way Tao, so here the text, this is 156, is quoting and citing the Tao. So Taoism, again, is an important language that's used to explain and articulate Buddhism using metaphors and religious and philosophical concepts that are indigenous to China. So the way needs no cultivation, just prevent defilement. What is defilement? When the mind of birth and death, one acts in a contrived manner, then everything is defilement. If one wants to know the way directly, ordinary mind is the way. What do I mean by ordinary mind? It is a mind that is devoid of contrived activities. It is without notions of right and wrong, grasping and rejecting, terminable and permanent, worldly and holy. So arriving back at an original pure mind and from that mind, one does not engage in actions that will lead to suffering. And the final form of Buddhism, which we're going to look at more in detail, is Pure Land Buddhism. And this is rebirth in kind of like a heavenly realm. I use the word heaven. The Chinese concept will be Tian, but heaven can have different connotations in different traditions. Here it is a realm created by an enlightened Buddha where beings can be born into. Let's take a look. So this is a picture of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, where beings are perpetually born into, and beings suffer in this realm again and again. There are these figures who are the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. They're like the Avengers, these cosmic heroes that will save beings who are suffering from this cycle of birth and death. So devotion to these different holy beings through prayers, through chanting certain verses that are called mantras, through prostrations, the lighting of incense, one will engage in practices to these holy beings, hoping that they will in turn create that the individual performing these practices creates the karma such that they connect with these holy beings and are able to escape the suffering of this world. And this gets into the Pure Land tradition. This is the tradition found in this blue area of Mahayana Buddhism. So what is a Pure Land? A special realm created by a celestial Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. So this is the benefit of all beings that have minds and that live and have minds and have a consciousness. This is the creation of a celestial Buddha's compassion, infinite karmic merits, and unbound mental power. So the Buddhas have, in the Mahayana tradition, have this omniscient consciousness, and using the power of their unlimited karmic merit, they can perform miraculous deeds for the benefits of others. The Pure Land is a paradise to practice Dharma, or to practice the teachings of the Buddha. And it's an intermediary state between samsara and Buddhahood. So one will go there. And this is like a really, really amazing, awesome college to go to, Pure Land in some ways, where a Buddha will train the individual how to purify their minds and then become an enlightened being capable of creating their own Pure Lands. And many who are affiliated with the Pure Land traditions of Mahayana Buddhism aspire to go to these places after their death. All right, and to escape samsara. Here we can see a Buddha and different enlightened beings floating out of the ocean of samsara. So how does one get to a Pure Land? Devotion to a celestial Buddha, mantras, and you'll see many of those in this week's video. Dedication of one's karma to being reborn in a Pure Land. So one acts in a way where one is aspiring to be born in a Pure Land. And then there's the blessings of the celestial Buddha presiding over a Pure Land. And this is a very popular being in Chinese Buddhism. This is Amitabha. This is the main Buddha that you'll see in this week's documentary on the discussion boards. Amitabha is a Buddha of unlimited light. He rules over a Western paradise called Sukhavati. And it's said that his Pure Land is easy to access. He's eager to help all beings who are suffering. The mantra to access this Pure Land is Namo Amitabha Buddha. And he's one of the most popular Buddhist deities in East Asia, in China, in Japan, Korea, Taiwan. Bodhisattvas are a little bit below status of a Buddha, but they still have tremendous power and aspire to help all beings escape the cycle of birth and death. The Sanskrit term for that cycle is called samsara. And one of the most popular figures is Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva of pure compassion. She also takes a masculine form in the Tibetan tradition and called Avalokiteshvara. This is Kuan Yin, very popular bodhisattva. Manjushri, who is the bodhisattva of wisdom. And Maitreya is a future Buddha. This is a Buddha who right now is residing in a Pure Land as a bodhisattva, but will be born in this world as the next Buddha at some point in the future. And okay, this brings us back to our guest that we have with us today. Let's meet our guest. Our guest this is not the Buddha that is Siddhartha. This is an individual named Putai, although it goes by different names. Around the 10th century in China, becomes a very popular figure, sometimes called the Laughing Buddha, but that's kind of a modern term. He is an incarnation of the future Buddha Maitreya. He's depicted as laughing, jolly, pot-bellied, a wandering teacher. Sometimes this is kind of like a Buddhist Santa Claus. That's my own term. Very jolly, happy figure. Some stories surrounded by children, gives away candy and treats to children. All right, so this is Putai. All right, so this week we've looked at Buddhism in the imperial context. We've looked at some of the major traditions of Buddhism, and we focused on Pure Land Buddhism. Next week, we'll continue a little bit more. We'll finish up on Buddhism and look at a very popular group today called the Shaolin monks. All right, so as always, stay safe, stay well, and stay tuned.